At Fight Night picks in the past, we've been wrong. So, it would be the cat's rear end if Anthony Hernandez goes out there and shocks the world. Listen, I would be incredibly high on Anthony Hernandez from here on out. Like, he would be my guy. But I'm going with Rodolfo Vieira in this fight.
Muniz has one way to win this fight. Yes, he's a third-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. Yes, he's great on the mat. I'm telling you this right now. It's not like Jacare is like a Rodolfo Vieira, where I'm worried that he's going to get tired and that there's a world out there where Jacare could get submitted. I'm telling you this right now. Jacare is not going to get submitted by Andrea Muniz. There is not a world, there is not any situation where Muniz outgrapples Jacare in this fight.
But I never thought we'd come to the day where the guy that's featured in our video promo pack, Matt going, I can guarantee you one thing, Rodolfo Vieira is going to submit Saperbeg Safarov. It happened. Rodolfo Vieira's nickname, they don't really mention as much in the UFC, but Joe Rogan will, is the fact that he is the black belt hunter. And this is one of the most accredited jiu-jitsu players you're going to find in MMA. Oh, by the way, Fluffy Anthony Hernandez submitted him in his last fight. It's absolutely insane. It's a stat that's going to live with him for the rest of his life. But there's one main reason why. Anthony Hernandez, oddly enough, unless he's fighting like a Jordan Wright, has weird staying power, great defensive jiu-jitsu.
Good cardio.
And good cardio, and he's a young man. For Rodolfo Vieira, if you get past the first half of the first round, he is the 31-year-old that looks the most like an 81-year-old after that point. And I could not believe how bad it looked after that. And the comment section filled up, and rightfully so, because I was totally wrong. It was amazing how bad Vieira looked after he couldn't submit Hernandez in that fight.
George Patton had a quote after World War II, and it was that fatigue makes cowards of us all. And that really just defines Rodolfo Vieira his last time out. I know we both had not only high hopes for him in his last performance, but just kind of moving forward. This is a guy who is not only known for his jiu-jitsu, but is known for submitting other jiu-jitsu aces. Like, you don't get a nickname like the Black Belt Hunter by being okay on the mats against a bunch of blue belts. And the fact that it wasn't the fact that he got out-grappled in his last fight. That's fine. You can get out-grappled and then get better at grappling, and then we'll see a different version of you. It's the fact that he gave up in his last fight. That really is the important thing. Like, in MMA, the one thing that you have to have is heart. Like, when the fight gets tough, this is always my Cyril Gahn thing. I know Craig rolls his eyes, but it's very true. Cyril Gahn, you can't have a bunch of confidence behind a lot of his performances because he's never faced adversity yet. And trust me, he's finally got... He hadn't. And he's finally got to the point now where I'm a lot more confident in his overall game. But there is a case where there's a lot of fighters, even Shane Carwin, for instance. Shane Carwin had the crazy stat where it was all of his fights end by first round knockout. That's great, but what happens when your fight doesn't end by first round knockout? What happens when you do have to go to plan B, plan C, plan D? There's guys out there like, for instance, Israel Adesanya, John Jones, Daniel Cormier, where it doesn't really matter what you throw at them. They're going to figure it out as they move along, and there's a reason why those guys are all champions. The fact that when Rodolfo Vieira faced any sort of adversity whatsoever in the cage, he just gave up is a really big issue that I have. And it's weird, because against Dustin Stoltzfus, who has good jiu-jitsu of his own, it will be weird, because I don't think Dustin's going to go out there and submit Rodolfo Vieira. Trust me, I've made statements like that before, and they have come back to bite me. But it really does feel like every single Rodolfo Vieira fight comes down to, can he submit his opponent before he gets tired? The problem is that he gets tired, 90 seconds? Trust me, his jiu-jitsu is great.
His wrestling complements his jiu-jitsu so well, because to me, when he came into the UFC, it was, this guy's going to blast double legs and take guys down. We went back and watched him coming into the UFC. He fought with ACA. The Vitaly Nemchinov submission wins. He just kind of runs in, takes him down, submits him, gets his back. And then he comes into the UFC and it's like, okay, he's going to be taking on Oscar Piota. Didn't really have the greatest run. I mean, he made Marc-Andre Barrios look like a guy that's going to challenge for the title tomorrow. Finishes him, and then he takes on our guy, Saperbeg Safarov, one of the worst runs in the UFC. And he finishes him, and it's like, wow. To me, I'm not joking. I thought Rodolfo Vieira was going to become a top 15 talent. I thought he was going to creep right up. I thought, man, this is one of those lone specialists that's going to go all the way. And I had so much stock riding in him. Now that's gone. Let's throw it back to our preview of Pennsylvania's own, who trains in Germany, Dustin Stoltzfus, because we painted a lovely little picture before his UFC debut. And I mean, for Dustin Stoltzfus making his UFC debut, a guy coming in off of Dana White Contender Series this past summer, he got a first-round win over Joseph Pfeiffer in a bit of a non-starter of a fight. It was kind of a disappointment. Pfeiffer breaking his arm. It was gross. It kind of sucked. But, hey, you get your opportunity in the UFC. I mean, he's 13-1, and you look at the wins. He beats Nihad Nasifovic at GMC 3. Guy's record was 9-4, nothing to shake a stick at. But if you go back and watch that fight, Stoltzfus really set things up on the feet. He was throwing those nice hooks. He was whipping them with those kicks. And the thing with Dustin Stoltzfus, he'll throw the kicks everywhere. It's not like he's just landing a calf kick every time. He'll aim for your knee. He'll aim for your thigh. Because like you said, he's not afraid to get taken down. You know how good of a submission game he has. And he got a third-round twister in that one. Pretty darn cool. Wow. Bryce Mitchell, Korean Zombie. Hey, keep it on lock. I know he's, 40 pounds heavier than both of those guys, but still, keep it on lock. But the fight that I really like for Dustin Stoltzfus was the fight against Jonas Bilstein. And in that fight, GMC 20, you might recognize Jonas from fighting Alexander Shlemenko and getting finished, and then Frolov and getting finished, and then Stoltzfus and getting finished. But hey, Jonas Bilstein is a really good type of litmus test for me to see if you beat him, you can probably kick it in one of the bigger promotions. I mean, it took Stoltzfus 2 more fights to make it here, but he gets a big win there in a fight against a guy that can definitely kickbox. He's throwing those crazy kicks. He's mixing in some combinations. He switched stances very well. He rocked him in that first round. He gets taken down. He's grabbing the guillotine, and then the round ends, and he goes in there and throws a wild right hand that absolutely springboards his opponent in that one. Stoltzfus, you know he's great on the feet. You know his jiu-jitsu's certainly there. And you look at his total wins, and I mean, this is a guy, you can't take it from him. He's the We Love MMA middleweight champ. We love MMA.
Yeah.
And he's their middleweight champ. So for Dustin Stoltzfus, this is a guy that can throw a lot of kicks, a lot of power moves. We've seen his defensive grappling tested in the past, but overall it was able to hold up. Now he took on Kyle Dawkins last time out. One of the judges, Michael Bell, not Chris, but Michael Bell, 30-26. Junichiro Kamijo, 30-27. Tony Weeks, 30-27. MMA decisions, the majority had it 30-27. 129-27 and a couple of 30-26s. I had it 30-27. I actually had really high hopes for Dustin Stoltzfus, the former We Heart MMA champ, coming into that fight. But overall, very complete fighter. Maybe a little late getting to the dance, even though he was 13-1 going into that fight. But overall, I really like his game. So the big question is, obviously, can he outlast Vieira in this one?
I can't believe I'm saying this, Craig. I think Rodolfo Vieira can at least get an early takedown in this fight, if nothing else. Now, will that early takedown be solidify the win for him, or will that early takedown force him to work, which is something you never want Rodolfo Vieira to do in his fights, and force him to get tired as the fight goes on? Personally, I think we saw the worst version of Rodolfo Vieira his last time out, and I really do think he can only go up from there. I understand getting submitted when your nickname is the Black Belt Hunter is going to leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, but I can't honestly tell you that I think he's going to look worse than he did his last time out. So against my better judgment, I am actually going to pick Rodolfo Vieira in this fight.
Rodolfo Vieira open to -210 favorite. He's -234 on best fight odds. Dustin Stoltzfus open to +180. He's roughly a +189 right now. Over on Tapology, 1,054 total votes, 79% Vieira, 85% by submission, 21% that have Stoltzfus, 46 roughly percent have him to win by knockout. I'm not normally one to just go totally off script with a hype train. I'm totally off it right now.
Wow.
You can't improve your cardio that well in 4 months if you're that big of a guy at 185 pounds. I know what I'm getting out of Stoltzfus. In terms of the way that they match up height and reach-wise, Stoltzfus actually has an advantage in terms of the reach. Height-wise, they're about the same. Obviously, Rodolfo's like a brick shithouse out there. But I do like Dustin Stoltzfus in terms of his staying power, and I think once we get into the second, third round, this fight is definitely his. I've seen him strike with kickboxers. I've seen him fight grapplers in the past. His last time out didn't go well against Dawkins, who's more multifaceted, has the cardio and staying power and the straight shots. I like Stoltzfus in this fight.
This is the only pushback I'll have. I don't disagree with you picking Stoltzfus in this fight. I don't know what his staying power in the UFC really is. Because if you look at what Kyle Daukaus is at middleweight, he's a good but not great fighter. And I do really feel like we saw the limitations of Stoltzfus in that fight. Because, like you said, he can strike with kickboxers, he can wrestle with wrestlers, but at a certain point, the people who do have the advantages over him tend to win out in their own specialty. So I don't disagree with your pick in this one, but I'm curious to see where his ceiling is in the division as a whole. And I guess we are going to learn a lot this weekend.
The guys who are better than him in his specialties, he's 13-2. His only losses to Christian Skorzik back in 2015.
Listen, when you're billed as a grappler and you get out grappled, and I understand it's what happened to Rodolfo Vieira as well, but Rodolfo got tired and then got out grappled. Stoltzfus was fine and still got out grappled against Daukaus. Again, it really does come down to, do you think Vieira is going to submit him in the first round, or do you think Dustin's going to outlast that first round?
All right, Matt. Well, we're split on that one. So you got Rodolfo Vieira to get the win. I'm going with Dustin Stoltzfus to get the win. You let us know down below in the comments section. Who's getting this win? I want to know. Matt wants to know. We'll have a poll coming up later on in the week before question mark kicks. You can check that out at Fight Night Picks over on Instagram. If you're not already there, it's a great time.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? We got a big time main event coming up this weekend. Islam Makhachev taking on Thiago Moises. You're not going to want to miss that. Just keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, as we always say.
Let's get into it.